Welcome everyone to our virtual information session on the Doctor of Education EdD program here at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. We are so thrilled that you have taken some time out of your busy schedule to be with us here today for this information session. I know that you have a lot on your plate, so thank you so much for showing up and being a part of this information session. Just a couple of things to keep in mind before we go ahead and dive into the program today. This webinar is being recorded, and a copy of that recording, a link to that recording, will be sent to all of our registrants about 10 days after today. In addition to that, there is a Q&A function that we will be using for this webinar. At the end of our presentation today, we will have we'll have a Q&A session, about 30 minutes for you to ask your questions to our presenters and about the admissions process. So any questions that you have throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in that Q&A box, and we will go ahead and get to those at the end of our information session. Thank you again so much for being here with us today. First and foremost, I just want to start by going over the agenda for our session. So our session today is going to include a brief overview of the School of Education, and then I will introduce our faculty presenter, Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw. She will go over an overview of the EdD program. You'll also have the opportunity to hear from a student from the EdD program, and then I'll go over the admissions requirements in addition to some financial aid information. And then, like I mentioned earlier, we will have a Q&A session at the end. Just some fast facts here on the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Our total enrollment is just under 1,800 students, and we have over 100 faculty members. Those students and faculty, along with our staff members, make up our community here at the School of Education. We have about 24,000 alumni who have graduated from the School of Education, and we have students from all across the globe. We span over 47 countries with our community. We're very highly ranked. We're very proud to say that we are ranked number 13 in best education schools by the U.S. News and World Report. So now it is my pleasure to introduce to you our faculty presenter. She is Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw. She serves as a faculty lead for the EdD program. She's also an assistant professor here at the School of Education. She has received extensive training in family systems therapy and educational neuroscience, and has direct experience as the head of school within an AMI-based Montessori school framework. Dr. Shaw instructs in the Mind, Brain, and Teaching Certificate, as well as the Doctor of Education online programs. Lastly, Dr. Shaw's work has focused on translating research from multiple areas of neuroscience, educational psychology, sustainability education, and family systems research into school design and classroom practice. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Shaw.
So hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dr. Laura Flores-Shaw. I'm going to give you an overview of the program here. I'm going to begin with our vision and mission. So here at Hopkins, our EdD program is designed to impact complex educational problems across the globe by preparing education practitioners to think critically about problems within their education environment and develop the deep understanding and insights to lead positive, sustained change within those educational contexts. Our mission is that exceptional education practitioners will engage with an internationally renowned faculty to cultivate and practice curiosity, critical discourse, and perspective taking in a unique and rigorous course of study using the lenses of social justice, systems thinking, appropriate research methods, and empirical inquiry. So this Doctor of Education degree is ideal for experienced practitioners who seek to analyze and critique educational practice and research from a social justice and systems perspective, who want to apply relevant methodologies to address critical challenges in education, those who want to integrate research and practice-based knowledge to develop research-informed decisions and opinions about educational experiences, processes, policies, and institutions, and those seeking to communicate effectively to diverse audiences about educational research experiences, processes, policies, and institutions. And this is one of the things, obviously, that differentiates us from a PhD program. So being able to effectively be a bridge between research and practitioners is very key to our program. So at a glance, our program requirements include a minimum of 90 graduate credits beyond the bachelor's degree. So a master's degree is required. Students, typically their master's programs are 30 to 36 credits. Up to 36 credits can be transferred automatically with a potential for 6 additional credit hours. And there's a minimum of 48 credits that must be completed here at Hopkins. For right now, for the fall 2023 areas of interest, these may be the areas of interest for fall 2024 as well. We have creativity, advanced learning, and twice exceptionality, digital learning and educational technology, entrepreneurial leadership and education, mind, brain, and teaching, and urban leadership. And it should be noted that if any applicants have already received a certificate in mind, brain, and teaching here at Hopkins, that we would like you to take courses from other areas of interest. In terms of program features, we offer a rigorous, relevant, and systemic and social justice perspectives in our program. We allow our students to communicate their research in modalities other than scholarly writing. We think that this is very, very critical, is particularly since social justice is one of our big tenets here at the School of Education. And so in order to walk that talk, we cannot privilege a particular form of communication with respect to research. And so our students have the opportunity to communicate in other modalities that also allow them to better reach the parties they want to reach in their field. Our program is a 4-year program to allow for students to really focus on process. So this program is not about receiving a checklist of things you have to do. This really truly is about a change in one's thinking. And so we really wanted to provide students the opportunity to actually think. So our program is 4 years. We offer online asynchronous instruction with synchronous support. That can come in the synchronous support can come in the form of one-on-one meetings with instructors, as well as small group meetings or class synchronous sessions. And there are components of the doctoral dossier that are within the coursework. Not every single course, but there's always something from a course that is going to inform your doctoral dossier work. So in terms of the coursework, we require Foundations of Education, which is a total of 18 credits, Applied Research, which is a total of 9 credit hours, the Doctoral Dossier Research, which is 12 credit hours, and then there's 15 credit hours for areas of interest and electives. So the final and most significant requirement for this EdD degree is a doctoral dossier. And what this is basically a culmination of independently completed but closely interrelated projects. Projects are embedded within your coursework and distributed across 4 years. And students are focusing on a problem of practice within their context of professional practice. But it doesn't have to be the specific school or institution in which you work. Your problem of practice can also be, within your broader field. So it is not required that you stay at your same job, the entire 4 years of this program. You will still be able to do your doctoral dossier work. And so the thing that connects all of the projects together is your problem of practice, but it gives students an opportunity to look at different aspects of their problem of practice as they go through each project. Additionally, there's a potential for significant change within content of professional practice and or implications for policy. So we want your work to have real world applications. Our doctoral dossier structure is based on Boyer's 1994 scholarship domains. And this was originally, these domains were originally created for faculty, actually. And we are taking this framework and using it for our students. And so there are 3 projects that students will do. And project 1 is during the first year. And this is a scholarship of integration, which is a systems examination of the student's problem of practice. So most of the students, you should know, come in actually not focusing on a problem of practice, but focusing on a solution to something that they think is a problem. And so that first year, students go through the painful but very important process of moving away from focusing on solutions to actually identifying a problem and examining the systems in which that problem is situated. And so that's the first year. Then the second year, they can take one aspect of the system and focus on that for project number 2, which students then have a choice that second year, because now they've done their full examination of the problem. So in year 2, they can choose a scholarship of teaching or a scholarship of application, depending upon their goals, their particular interests, and what they think is going to be most impactful for their context. Again, context meaning their actual institution or the broader field. For project 3, the choice is whatever you did not choose for year 2, or a scholarship of discovery, which is a more typical, I'm going to go out and I'm going to collect empirical data. Then that culminates in the 4th year with a final defense, where you're going to defend all of your projects and show how they all are all tied together. And that defense will be oral in the 4th year. So in terms of support structures, we offer an online orientation prior to first semester. We do have an annual face-to-face orientation residency. That also, we actually, this past summer was the first summer that we were able to have face-to-face since COVID, have a face-to-face orientation residency. And that was all student planned and student-led as well. Of course, there was guidance and input from faculty, but most of our the students really on the student advisory board really were hugely important to planning and hosting the event. And actually, our student speaker today, Kevin James, was part of that student advisory board. We also offer doctoral dossier faculty mentors. And so each student will have the same mentor throughout the 4 years. So each faculty mentor works with a small group of students. There are also program mentors, we have peer mentoring, and of course, you can always get support from your instructors. I would say that all of our faculty and any adjunct instructors that we have are all incredibly student-centered and very available to students. We also offer a writing clinic, library webinars, and online resources like a program and cohort sites. So there's a lot of different avenues for communication. So with the mandatory online orientation, we have modules. We have modules on technology tools that we use here in the program, on library research. There's some social justice training. There's some systems thinking and nature of research. We also have the collaborative institutional training initiative, which is necessary for any students who want to do a scholarship of discovery and collect empirical data. We have, again, the in-person orientation and residency, and those who cannot attend orientation or residency in person, and that's usually the third week of July for 2 days. We provide recordings of all of the events. And finally, there's a EdD course tour at the end. So as I said, orientation and residency, it's face-to-face. It's usually the third week of July, 2 days, again, maybe completed virtually. Designed and led by a student advisory board with input from faculty, program mentors, and the administration team. And really the focus is on community building, support for program success, networking, some program content, and career development. So we wanted to give you some example of work that students have done here in the past. So we had a student who worked on HIV/AIDS infected young adults who are non-adherent with their medication. That was their problem of practice. Another one was education for diversity, how to ensure teachers' success in reaching culturally and linguistically diverse populations. There was one on entrepreneurship in Escribo, an ed tech company in Brazil. Advisement models to support community college student enrollment and completion. Business and education partnership models of endurance. And the last one is actually the work that I did when I was a student in the program, because I'm actually, I was in the very first cohort of this online program. I did a qualitative exploration of pedagogical constructs in Montessori schools. And so now we're going to turn it over to our fabulous student speaker, Kevin James.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Kevin James. I'm currently a second-year student within the EdD program. My area of interest is actually entrepreneurial leadership and education, as well as my problem of practice is actually focused on ineffective utilization of space on university campuses, really thinking about how we on university campuses, for example, utilize space post the pandemic. One thing I'll mention is that I'm currently a director of finance at St. John's University, working within my enrollment management team, as well as my student affairs team as well. The core reason why I wanted to go to JHU was really that I really wanted a doctoral program that really valued my knowledge as a practitioner first, but really wanted to challenge me as a researcher. And I really firmly believe that the program here at Johns Hopkins is really geared towards that. One of the other things that came to mind for myself was I've been in my career roughly now 9 years. And so I was really debating whether I wanted to take off time to go for a PhD or an EdD, and felt that this was the right mix for me. In terms of my time here at the School of Education, I served, as Dr. Shaw mentioned, on the Student Advisory Board for the summer of 2023 residency. What I loved about that experience was that it allowed me to really get to know, the faculty, and really that they care about our success. They're geared towards ensuring that we are pushed to our best of our abilities, but at the same time, wanted this to be a program that was centered around us. I also found my own group, my own academic pod during my first semester in my first course here. They're named Team Orals. There's 4 of us in the same group that we kind of, I would say, take classes together, but also just work with each other so that we can get across the finish line. And for me, I always look at kind of why, go for a doctoral program, what are the things that we should be thinking about. And for me, when I was picking a doctoral program, I really wanted a program that was dedicated for my success, but also really wanted me to follow my own passions. And it's a 4-year program. This is something that, if you've already done a bachelor's degree, a master's, it's another 4 years of your life, right? And so you really want a program that's going to gear towards making you take on something that makes you feel special. And more importantly, that you're solving a problem, or to the best of your ability, looking to solve a problem that would allow for you to maybe in some cases change the world, or even just to kind of add to the knowledge gap that we have in certain areas of society as well. So that's a little bit about me as well.
Thank you, Kevin, for your insight on the program and talking a little bit about your experience. So at this time, I am just going to review some of the admissions requirements, the admissions timeline for the program before we open it up to Q&A. So for the application is open and available now, so you can apply to the program right now. There is an online application that is required in addition to an $80 application fee. Typically that application fee, all students are have to submit that, but right now we have extended the period for students to apply and have an application fee waiver. So we are encouraging all of students who are really interested in this program, get your application in the month of November so that you have your application fee waived. In addition to the application and the fee, you'll be required to submit your resume, a personal statement that really explores your problem of practice, 2 letters of recommendation. You'll need to submit your official transcripts. Every institution you've attended post-secondary, whether you've had a degree conferred or not, we will need that official transcript. So anywhere you've taken coursework. And then the GRE is optional for this program. So if you want to submit that GRE score, you are welcome to, but it is not required. And then students have a virtual interview in the second round after they have completed their online application. For our international students, there are a couple more application requirements. Our international students are required to submit a passing IELTS or TOEFL score. We do have a possible TOEFL score waiver request form within the application. So the details for if you qualify for that waiver or on the website. If you qualify, you will have to submit that form inside the application. In addition to that, instead of submitting your official transcripts, you'll need to submit a course-by-course evaluation of your academic credentials if your degree was earned outside of the United States or Canada. A list of the approved agencies for that credential evaluation can be found on our website, as well as some additional resources for international students for the application process. That website is education.jhu.edu/international. For this program, we'll go over the admissions timeline. So like I said, the application is available right now. For our students who have a complete application, you may be invited for virtual interviews starting in the month of November. The official application deadline is January 18th. That's the deadline to submit your application and have all of those extra materials to us. The application decision and review process for the program starts in February and goes to mid-March, and then in mid-March, the admission decision notifications are released. This program is delivered online. The cost per credit for the program is $1,900, which leaves it at about $5,760 per course. In addition to the tuition, there is a registration fee of $175 per semester. And like I said and mentioned earlier, there's that application fee. But right now, if you submit your application in the month of November, that fee will be waived for you. So now that we went over tuition, I will go over some financial aid resources that we have available for you here at the School of Education. We have institutional scholarships. They are limited partial need-based scholarships available for students in the fall and spring of each academic year. In order to be considered for those need-based endowed scholarships, you will need to submit your FAFSA. We encourage students to do that at the time of submitting their admissions application. In addition to that, the EdD program does have several merit-based scholarships. Again, these are partial scholarships and limited. They range anywhere from $500 to $10,000 for the first year only. We do encourage our students also to look for some external sources of scholarships. Two great websites that you can go to start exploring those options are scholarship.com and then also teacher.org. Like I said, really, submit that FAFSA every year and submit it at the time that you submit your admissions application in order to be considered for our endowed need-based scholarship. So at this time, we are going to open it up for Q&A. I do see that we have quite a bit of questions that are coming in. So if you have any additional questions, please type them in the Q&A box. Myself and Dr. Shaw and Kevin are available here to answer your questions. So is there any questions that you saw, Dr. Shaw, that you want to answer live right off the bat, or do you want me to go through some of them?
I'm not seeing, I've been answering them in the chat, not seeing any.
I think there may have been one question on the entrepreneurship area of interest that we could probably answer a little bit.
Do you want to answer that, Kevin?
Sure. So the entrepreneurial leadership and education track, or I would say area of interest really now, is really centered on understanding the infusion of entrepreneurship as well as entrepreneurship theory within the realm of education. So, in my particular sector, for example, I'm in higher ed. So we look at, for example, how we can look at social entrepreneurship within education today. We also look at classes such as leadership in education. There's currently one that talks about it in higher ed, and there's a couple of others down the road. But it really centers on how we can look at entrepreneurship and their theories and how we can enhance the area of education overall. So that's a little bit about it at the present moment. I like that track. I also have an MBA. So it actually kind of connected well with myself, but it's really, I feel like anyone should really take at least one course in that area as well.
Awesome, thank you. Dr. Shaw, there is a question in here about the difference between an EdD and a PhD program in terms of research focus and academic expectations. Do you want to address that a little bit?
Yes, so it's really important. I mean, I can give you some information here, but it's very, very important that you do your own research to determine what the difference is between a PhD and an EdD program. So if your goal is to be a researcher and to have a very focused line of research and to do theory testing and that sort of thing, then you want to be in a PhD program. This is an applied program. So we are teaching you some research skills to be a critical consumer of research, to help you to effectively apply that research to practice. So again, the expectation is that you're going to be like a big time researcher, this is not the program for you. If the expectation is that you see yourself as a bridge between research and practice, and you really want to be able to understand the research, and also to for your focus to be able to think systemically and to think through a social justice lens. So this is also very much a change in your thinking about your practice and your field in general. Then this is the program for you.
Thank you.
Someone did ask about. Someone asked, do I have to be currently employed as an educator, or would working in the field be, I think you mean sufficient. So one thing I want to note is that you don't necessarily have to be a teacher or even work necessarily in an educational institution, a school or an institution of higher education. We do have students who come from who come from different industries, and with the understanding that like learning happens everywhere. So we've had corporate trainers, we've had fitness instructors, actually. We've had people who work for the Department of Defense. So it's not required that you be a teacher. It's not required that you be employed. You can still conduct scholarship without having an official place where you go to work. But if you are in the field, that would be fine.
I would probably also add that in my particular cohort, I mean, we have like folks who are working in dentistry. So I think it's just fascinating to meet all the different students, and their motivations are also very different for why they chose the EdD program here. But I really enjoy that factor. I know that there was a question earlier about, is it common to see K through 12 educators? Absolutely. That is something that we have seen, at least in my cohort, but also in general. Like, I see a lot of higher ed folks as well, and even folks that are outside of it. There's actually one person in my current cohort that actually works at a music school, which I think is fantastic. And their problem practice is fascinating to me as well.
Fantastic.
We have another question here on, somebody says, my area of interest is curriculum and instruction. Can I apply? That is up to you. So you need to look at what our school offers and decide if what we offer is of interest to you. So we want you to come from an internal motivational perspective, understanding what we have to offer and who we are, as opposed to an external of like, can I? Decide for yourself. What do we have? Do we offer what you want? See, someone asked in the personal statement, how much should be focused on our problem of practice versus our interest in the program suitability? So what you want to do is really make sure that you're following the prompts. Follow the prompts and read them very carefully. And that will answer your question.
There was a question that says, what are some modes of research in lieu of academic writing? I think they might mean other modalities for their doctoral dossier.
Right. So I put in another comment, maybe you all didn't get to see it, but there's an organization called CAMRA, CAMRA. So this gives examples of other types of modalities that researchers are using to disseminate their work. We had also EdD Carson come from the University of Virginia to speak to our students at the in-person residency in July. And for his dissertation work, he did a rap album. There are folks who have done things like graphic novels. So however you think is the best way to communicate to the people you want to communicate with. So it could be a podcast, it could be videos, it could be any number of things. We do not provide housing for summer residency. So if you go to our website, then you can I'm not sure that we have all of the courses there, but you can also check, I believe, the academic catalog.
Yeah,
someone asked, how do you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Someone asked, how do you define problem of practice? Okay, so think about the term. You have a practice, an everyday practice, and then there's a problem that you have probably identified of some sort in that practice that needs to be solved. That's really the best way that I would think about that term. You can also Google the term and see, how are folks talking about problems of practice. There is I can't think of the website. There's another, there is a website called the Carnegie Project on the Education Doctorate, CPED. You could also peruse that website to see how folks are talking about problems of practice. Okay, someone asked if the entire JHU course catalog is open to us, or we only take courses in the School of Education. You would only be taking courses in the School of Education. Someone asked, is this a cohort model? Will you be able to communicate with other participants in the program? Oh, we very much want you to communicate with other participants in the program. And actually, yes, it is a cohort model. So the same small group of students will work with that same faculty mentor for 4 years. And we very much encourage students to not only reach out to the folks who have the same faculty mentor, but across the cohort as well. And we provide opportunities for that. So for instance, we have a Slack for each of our cohorts. There's also a lot of group work that we provide, and group work within the courses can be done synchronously or asynchronously. So you work that out with your group, but there's all kinds of great technology that can be used. And the students get Zoom accounts. So we have a lot of students who also use each other as kind of accountability partners as well. So they may get together a couple of days a week where they are on Zoom together for 2 hours or something like that. And the goal is to get some work done. So they may not even be doing work, together. They're doing their individual work, but they're in that space together. It's like the study space. So we definitely want you communicating with each other.
I would also probably add that we also have wonderful TAs in our program. So in some cases, these are students who are currently in their year 2, 3, or even close to the end, or even graduates who you can talk with. I think the TAs have really supported us and really got us through the first year. And now going to the second year, we're so much more stronger when we're talking to other students, even beyond our current years as well.
Someone asked, it seems like the areas of interest is student driven. Can a student propose a new area of interest to explore if accepted into the program? So areas of interest are based on the courses that we offer. So, and also we are not, this is the other thing, we don't have specializations or concentrations. These are areas of interest. And so we actually we want students to take courses across areas of interest, because oftentimes what we think is not relevant is actually very relevant. So if you are, for instance, interested in utilizing, the use of technology in education, knowing something about how brains and bodies interact with technology in space, or thinking about that is important. So you would take maybe a course from, mind brain teaching, for instance. So we don't expect you to only take courses in that one area of interest. That actually doesn't foster a systems perspective. That's much more of a, kind of typical Newtonian reductionistic perspective. So someone's asking about the role of GRE scores in the admissions process, given that the GRE is optional. They're curious to know if providing scores would potentially strengthen the application. Honestly, it depends on what your scores are. So that's really up to you to make that determination. Particularly considering that my previous academic experiences are not directly related to education. I will tell you, actually, my previous 2 degrees are in psychology. So I did not, I had an education background as a practitioner, but not in terms of my degrees. So we're sort of less concerned about that. And when we have folks, Kevin mentioned he has an MBA, we have folks who have other types of degrees. It's not necessarily the case that we want to see an education degree. What we want to see is that you have the ability to work in a rigorous academic program.
I also have an undergrad in government politics as well. So for me, I'm coming at this from a totally different perspective, but I spent also 8 years in education. So for me, it was nice to see that like they really look at your entire package of who you are, and it's not necessarily limited to just folks who are only in education from the start of their program all the way to when they're applying.
Reginald is asking, they're interested in becoming a chief talent officer as well as a higher ed professor. Is it suitable for such endeavors? I don't know what a chief talent officer does, and so that's up to you to do that research to determine that. We do have a lot of students who end up working in higher ed. They tend to be clinical faculty, meaning that their focus is on teaching as opposed to research. Okay, how many classes do students usually take per semester? So it's 2 classes per semester. Because the program is 4 years, you're not required to take courses every summer. Given the way the courses are and the timing of the program, there are at least one summer you would be required to take 2 courses, or you could take 1 course a summer and still have 1 summer off from courses. So courses are primarily in the fall and in the spring. And this is a way, again, to give students time to work on their doctoral dossier and to give them time to really reflect and think.
I would say also it's hard to do any more than 2 a semester if you're also working full time. That's just what I've seen. I think this feels right in terms of balancing between the day-to-day work, but also doing this at night. So it is a challenge to do any more than that. So
Anna's asking, if I submit my application in November, do I have a higher chance of getting admitted? I don't think so. We go through the whole season. Okay, Stephanie's asking, what if my problem of practice entails and integrates 2 areas such as digital learning and urban context, for instance? For the area of interest, you are not applying for that area of interest. You're basically just telling us, this is what I think I have an interest in. And so it's, really going to be up to you to determine the courses that you want to take that are going to be most relevant to your work. And like I said earlier, we do encourage you to take courses across areas of interest. Okay, so someone wrote, having 2 masters and completing my EDS this fall, only 6 credits can be applied to this program max. Yes. Okay, so let's see. Henny is asking, I have some questions about the problem of practice. Can I write about a few possible options for my problem of practice statement? Does it need to relate to a community, school, or group, or can the POP relate to individual students, such as how to intervene with readers who struggle with rapid? So I just want to point out, like, notice that your question, you're asking, how to intervene. That's a solution. So you want to look at a broader problem. So maybe the broader problem is achievement of struggling readers. But I would really kind of focus on a problem as opposed to talking about multiple problems. And again, try to focus on problems and what you think are potentially contributing factors without talking about, I want to focus on this solution. What does access to on-campus resources, libraries look like for virtual students? So basically, you know, our library is online. And if you ever need assistance from our librarians, they're available to our students as well. And do virtual students participate in commencement? Yes. So that is a time, there are 2 times that students will show up in person if possible. One is during the in-person orientation residency, and the other one is commencement.
So it looks like Juan has a question.
Yep.
In your opinion, would a focus on leadership, private international schools be a good match for the entrepreneurial leadership area of interest? Not that this is not a, this is probably the answer, that it really depends on how you look at the problem, you know, or the problem of practice that you may have in your area. So, you know, private international schools, I think in any form of education, there could be some infusion of entrepreneurship, you know, sometimes taking on entrepreneurial risks, sometimes creating new ideas. I think for me, I'm actually in private, I'm in private education now. I'm actually at St. John's University. So one of the challenges I always have is like, how do we want to be more innovative with some of our ideas or interests or things we want to implement? And I usually hit roadblocks a lot. So that's one example. But I think in your area, you may want to think about, where are you seeing those type of challenges? And if maybe entrepreneurship is a pathway to seek or to understand the problem in that capacity as well.
Someone asked, is the problem of practice intended to be limited to a single local context, or can it cut across institutions? It can cut across institutions. Okay, so Anna asked, I noticed that one of the recommendation letters should come from my professional practice, but can I get a recommendation letter from one of my professors who knows well about my problem of practice? So I believe we asked for a letter of recommendation from a professor.
Yeah.
If you don't submit something, if you are currently working and you don't submit a recommendation letter from your professional context, I think that might just make the reviewers question why. So, you know, so just consider that.
There's a follow-up question. There's a question right after that from Faith. Is there a way to find out a professor's area of interest? I'm interested in comics in high school classes, and I'm wondering if you had any professors in your department interested in comic education. Just on the first side of the question, I always look at their bios online on the website. The website actually is really great to kind of understand like what professors might be interested in, who might be geared towards someone you may want to reach out to. I know that when I first started the program and I was interested in the entrepreneurial leadership in education area of interest, I reached out to Dr. Henry Smith. He is fantastic. I learned a lot from him already, and I'm also taking his classes right now that is helping me through my problem of practice.
I don't know what comic education is.
I would presume it probably means like comic books within the realm of using them in education. So I'm always thinking about that in terms of like New York Comic Con, there's always like librarians as well as teachers who are actually in those areas. So I don't know who would do that in the School of Education right now, though.
Yeah, I don't think we would have anybody who does that, but something to also keep in mind is that, you know, what's really core to the EdD is the systems thinking and the social justice training and being a critical consumer of research. If there's particular, like very specific niche kind of expertise that you're looking for, you can always reach out to folks outside of Hopkins. So for instance, we had a student who wrote a children's book, and for her committee, for her final defense, she had actually an academic who specializes in children's books. So she had reached out to this person and they were able to provide some guidance and support that those of us who were on her committee could not provide. So, just you keep that in mind. We do encourage our students. I have first-year students right now who are doing some work on their problem of practice, and I've encouraged them to reach out to other researchers in the field, not just in the School of Education or not just at Hopkins. And people are very responsive, so just keep that in mind. Let's see. How do professors support students during the online process as far as availability with answering questions, office hours, etc.? So every instructor has a different kind of process. I can tell you what mine is. For instance, I have a Calendly that I make available to students for 1 hour and half-hour meeting times, and they can schedule a time at their convenience. I also hold class synchronous sessions. I try to hold them at multiple times so that students who are international can also attend. So we're very cognizant of people's time zones. And in fact, I'm on the West Coast. Just, I'm not on the East Coast. I'm not in Baltimore. But everyone makes themselves available. You can always email. We very much encourage students to be very proactive in their relationship with faculty. If your perception is that you're coming in as a student and then we just kind of do things to you, it's not going to be a very enriching experience. If you come in with the perception that you are an expert in your field and you are coming here to learn and grow and develop, and you are in relationship with us, you will have a very, very enriching experience, and faculty will be very responsive to you reaching out. And as far as, academic resources to conduct research, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, but, there's, if there are certain things that we don't have or we don't know of, or professors will often suggest somebody else in the field, to talk to them again. So, but the faculty is extremely supportive here. Regarding the problem of practice, are students required to align the problem of practice to gaps they identify in their place of employment? I wouldn't say that you're required. What we're interested is in how you think about the problem of practice. So one way to think about a problem of practice is to identify like what you actually observe in your environment and kind of work backwards from that. It's, a problem of practice is not necessarily, it's not a lack of something, right? Because then if a lack of something has an inherent solution, you provide that something. So you really wanted to think about what is it that you actually observe in your day-to-day practice or within your field, and work from there. Are summer courses required each year in addition to the in-person residency? If I'm extremely busy spring semester teaching full-time, could one course be taken in summer, or is a cohort track? It is. So the only flexibility in terms of courses is with the areas of interest and electives. But for the first 3 years of the course, fall and summer, you are taking courses in a sequence. If you do have to take a semester off, you would actually then come back that following year at that semester time with a new cohort. So that's just something to keep in mind. Someone asked, I work in a non-traditional education setting, private parochial schools with limited instructional time. No, that will not negatively impact your problem of practice. You want to think about whatever that problem is in your practice, but that where your setting is not going to negatively impact your application. Is there a capstone option? So no, we The framework that we laid out is what students will work on. So there are 3 projects. Typical workload per week, I think you want to think of it in terms of kind of time. So you do want to think of this as a part-time job. And it could be anywhere from 10 hours, 15, 20, depending upon the time in the semester. But one thing to note, if you think you're only going to do this work on the weekends, that's going to be a huge struggle. So what students have found best, and I found this best when I was in the program, is that you're attending to this work daily in some way, whether it's 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours. If all of the work is put off until the weekend, life happens. And then if life happens that weekend in some way and you're not able to complete the work, you're going to find yourself behind. So you have to think of this process as a process, and you want to take little bites of that process daily as much as possible. Yes, we do have faculty. Tamika, your area of interest is the importance of play-based learning in early childhood. So that's not a problem. That's not a problem though, right? So that is more of validating a particular type of curriculum. So you really want to think about like what problems are you seeing in early childhood practice? And yes, some of us have some experience in early childhood practice and research.
Some of the students were asking who to contact if they had any additional questions, if they need to log off. Here is my contact information. You can reach out to me. And then also Rachel Gibbons, she is the academic program administrator. You can reach her as well. Our email address is on the screen for you, and then other ways for you to stay connected.
Yes. So if like Serena said, you're welcome to reach out to Rachel, and oftentimes, I will also meet with students. So, but contact Rachel first. Serena, are we still answering questions?
So I think we answered the bulk of the questions. If you have any additional ones, we are out of time. Thank you so much for your questions. There were definitely a lot. We were firing off behind the scenes and then answering as many as we could live. Thank you for tuning into our webinar. In addition to reaching out to admissions via email, I am your point person for this program as far as admissions goes. So if you would like to meet with me one-on-one, if you have any specific questions to you, I am available to do that as well. You can reach out to me via email to schedule that appointment. I just want to thank you so much, Laura and Kevin, for your time today, for giving us a great presentation for our prospective students, and then also thank our prospective students for their time here today as well.
Yeah, thank you everyone for coming.
Thanks, everyone.